Now, we are all interested in enhancing our success, joy, and peace. The natural draw of success, joy, and peace, or SJP as I call it, has an effortless pull. Merely thinking about success, joy, and peace makes you so full and so happy. Our probing minds usually rest when we're either joyful or peaceful or have achieved some success during the day. Success for a student, as many of you over here are, could be simply getting more marks in your next exam or getting a job of your own choice. Joy for somebody could be as simple as visiting an amusement park or eating delectable food, or in my case, just watching my favorite football team play every weekend and hopefully win. Peace for some people rather, is to follow some faith. Now, the most common notion behind this is that to achieve any of the SJP, as I call it, you only need to focus on yourselves. Now, by the way, I am no philosopher, saint, or yogi, nor do I look like one. And I haven't come here to transform your way of life, and neither have I come here to make you into a super student. Talking of student to super students, do you guys know who a super student really is? Well, I know you guys know, but you're not going to tell me anyway, so I'm going to explain it to you. All these years in all these classes, you have kept nodding your head in unison, sometimes out of meek submission, sometimes out of plain boredom, and perhaps more often than not because you didn't know what else to do. Yes, you were super students for your teachers. And now, before you nod your head in agreement to what I am saying, I'm going to take a pause and ask you a very simple question. How many of you sitting here believe that the person sitting right next to you, or perhaps in the row behind you, can enhance your success, joy, or peace? Just a raise of hand would get me an estimation. That's about 30% in the room, and I think you're raising your hands because the person sitting next to you did so. Well, no harm, no foul. I wouldn't have raised mine had you asked me this 3 years ago. Now, the strong and the most common notion is that to achieve success, joy, or peace, you only need to focus on yourselves. But the opposite couldn't be truer. The role that other individuals play in your success, your joy, and your peace is shockingly very high. While you guys will agree that there is a positive correlation between your efforts and your success, joy, and peace, there is an even stronger positive correlation between other efforts or others' contribution towards you and your success, joy, and peace. Let me give you a simple example. Since most of you out here are students, you would be having a forthcoming exam. Now, your chances of scoring more marks will be a lot more if you have the positive contribution from your teachers and your peers. Now, let's continue this chain of thought. Individuals can only contribute towards you in three simple ways. They can either have a positive contribution towards you, a negative contribution towards you, or they can play the role of a matcher. The more positive contribution they have towards you, the happier you will be. And that invariably will bring more success, more joy, and more peace in your life. Now, I was reading this Harvard case study recently. It was, by the way, the study lasted for 75 years long. It was based on a series of questionnaires, live interviews, a lot of studying of medical records and brain samples, and the study revealed only one simple thing. It said that to be healthier and happier, you only need to have good relationships. Now, it is, if you ask me, not science, but common sense. Outrightly discounting the existence and influence of those around us is only tantamount to harming one's own self. Now, let's delve deeper and understand who a human being actually is. Now, as we all know, thanks to Elliot Aronson, he's been saying this for the last quarter of the 20th century, that man is a social animal. Now, if you ask me, the difference between the society of an animal and that of the man is that the animal society is solely based on genetic kinship, whereas the human society is based on both cognitive and motivational mechanisms related to psychology. For us, there is strength in packs, and there is exponential wisdom too. Human intelligence has only evolved because of two reasons. One, collaboration, and second, social interaction. Therefore, relationships are pivotal for our success, joy, and peace. Now, most of you sitting out here would have met so many successful people, but they might not be too joyful or peaceful. That is not a strong SJP. Now, that I've spoken so much on success, joy, peace, and about relationships, the probing question in your mind right now could be that, fine, we need to increase our success, our joy, and our peace, but how do we transform our relationships right away? If you ask me, I'd say that building relationship is actually quite simple when thought of in a very cogent way. You simply need to be in a state of awareness and let the evident forces guide the way. But more often than not, we are in a flight or fight mode. And this block and tackle cost us preciously. The many times you've come home and wondered, why did I say this, or why did I overreact, is the number of times that you could have lost out on a relationship that could have been plausibly the cornerstones of your life. And that broken relationship, exact total in missed opportunity in not only not enhancing your SJP, but also in not materializing your unrealized self-potential. But what if we have something to hold on to? Some rules or principles that are so deeply embedded in our subconscious minds that our relationships, that the latent bonds of our relationships remain eternally strong. Well, that's exactly why I'm here in front of you today. I'm going to introduce you to two such rules. Rules which are both mutually exclusive but exhaustive in their own rights. Let's go to the two rules. Rule number one. Always do your self-defined duty towards your key stakeholders. Now, I urge you all to make some self-defined duty towards your stakeholders in your life. And these stakeholders could be starting from your family, your parents, your siblings, perhaps your future bosses or your present bosses or your employees. But what do these duties look like? So, for instance, a duty of a boss towards his employees could be to clearly and transparently communicate about the role clarity, the remuneration, the appraisal methods, and the growth path. And the self-defined duty of an employee could be to doing the duty by following the OTIF principle, that is, completing every task on time and in full without avoidable follow-up and taking complete sense of ownership in his or her own work. You must also remember that others' contribution towards you will only be as strong as the importance you give towards them. And higher the quality of your self-defined duty, higher will be the quality of your relationships. Coming to what you must be wary when you're defining your self-defined duty is one important point. You should not change your self-defined duty from case-to-case basis or because you receive a negative reaction from your key stakeholder. Let me give you an example. Let's assume there are two people in the house. One is the earning member and one is the homemaker. Out of sheer humbleness, the earning member proudly decides to lend 50,000 rupees to the homemaker on the 1st of every month. Leading up to the 1st of the next month, there's a quarrel between the earning member and the homemaker. Now, the earning member decides not to lend the 50,000 during the next month. That is self-dilution of your self-defined duty, which will surely dampen your relationships. You must all avoid that. Rule number 2. Do not expect anything from anyone. Now, if you ask me, I'd say that if you remove the word expectations our dictionaries, humanity could do a lot better. And I'm sure you must have heard this an obscene number of times by now. And every time you heard this, you must have wondered, if I buy a movie ticket, I do expect to see the movie, right? Or if I rent a house, I do expect my landlord to fix the broken pane, right? How can one be completely devoid of expectations? And that brings me to draw your attention towards the differences between your expectations and your rights. Let me put it in a simpler way. Every human interaction is simply a transaction. Rights are those interactions where each party knows the motives and what they owe each other. Whereas expectations is when your motives masquerade as instincts. Another reason why I believe expectation arise while I was doing my study is that often presumptions leads to expectations. We often presume that what we say people would agree to, what we sell people would like, and our failure of not accepting what we expected evokes feeling of sadness, discontent, displeasure. So every time we do something from someone and expect thing that the person should be doing or reciprocating their behavior towards me, we should always ask ourselves this one question. Did we do that task for the other person because it was our self-defined duty, or did we do it because we wanted something in return? And as long as your answer lies in the former, your expectations would evaporate in a jiffy. Now, I want you to think of that one relationship in your life which is not going too fine, or according to your liking. And you'll see that it is you who is not following either rule 1, rule 2, or perhaps both of them. Now, I sincerely believe that if you put these two rules in practice in letter and spirit, you can transform your relationships right away and enhance your success, joy, and peace. Now, my words can only do as much justice, but your afterthoughts will certainly do a lot more. Thank you.